Welcome to Matchday Live. We are on the eve of Manchester City's potential 100th win in the Champions League. That's incredible, isn't it? I am joined here by Caden and Kelly. Caden, first things first, what is your favourite memory on our European journey?
Rodri's goal in Champions League final.
Of course, probably the most favourite goal for every City fan. How did you feel when that goal went in?
I was crying. For ages.
We're close to our 100th win in Europe. What is your memory of Manchester City in Europe?
The main memory was it was either AC Milan or Inter Milan, I can't remember which, at Main Road, back in the late 70s, early 80s, I think. And I remember Brian Kidd piling one in the Platt Lane, and so that's one of my first memories, because I've been going since '69, so I've been going a long time. And the first year in the Champions League was a disaster. We got knocked out by Galatasaray in the first round, so I had to wait again. So it's one of the Milan clubs and Brian Kidd.
I'm here with Teddy and James. Let's talk about your favourite memory in the Champions League, Teddy.
So it has to be that Rodri goal to win Man City the Champions League. I was sat on the sofa with my dog and I went absolutely nuts.
Let's go and find out what Manchester City fans' best memory in the Champions League is. Come with me. Come on. Hello, sir. Can I please ask you a question, Manchester City related?
Yeah, go on then.
If we win the game tonight, it's our 100th win in Europe.
Go on.
I would like to ask you what your favourite Manchester City memory is in Europe.
In Europe, probably if I go back to the Cup winners, when we won the Cup Winners' Cup back in the 1970s now.
What are your memories of that game?
What are the memories of that game? Well, you're asking me a lot there. I'm 81, you see.
You look great for it.
Yeah, that's what they keep telling me.
What is your favourite memory in Europe watching Manchester City?
It's got to be the final last year, hasn't it? I mean, what a daft question.
Still asking the same question. What is your favourite memory of Manchester City in Europe?
Have to be the Champions League win this year, absolutely, no shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Rodri, what a player. One goal, that was all that was needed to win it, and he's the man to deliver on the big day. Classic.
What do you think about the current Manchester City team?
I think they're great. I really do. But we mustn't forget the Summerby Bell Lee era, because that
And King Clancy as well.
that's something. King Classy was a special player. He was really good. I'm not forgetting Trevor Francis. He was one hell of a player too. But the modern game now, it's changed so much, and the skill level is amazing. And it's all, it just warms my heart to be able to come and see him.
Do you think we'll win tonight?
3-1 Man City.
4-0.
Well, we're getting closer to kick-off, so let's head back to the Matchday Live studio where we can see Kel. We want to know what your memories are too, Kel.
Thanks, FG. Thanks to all those fans as well. Beautiful to start the show with you guys, and beautiful to have you with us. Good evening. My name is Cel Spellman, guiding you through as we build up, of course, to hopefully our 100th European win as we take on Young Boys at the Etihad Stadium. Here to dig into all of that, you can see we've got a hell of a guest for you. We've got Mr. Paul Dickov, Esme Morgan returns, and Steve Howey. We had a little group chat going before each show, and I was running a little bit late due to traffic. Esme put a little message and said she's going to run a bit late because she's been on the training pitch, which sounds a lot cooler, really. How was training? Of course, difficult result at the weekend, but a great start to the season nonetheless for you guys.
Yeah, training was good today. A little bit wet. We got caught in the Manchester showers, which are unavoidable at this time of year. But reflecting on the weekend, it was so frustrating because we felt like we were the better team and we had chances to win the game, and then just a couple of sloppy moments from us ended up costing us. So it's really frustrating, but on the whole for the season, I think it's looked really positive. We've performed really well in most of the games that we've played, and yeah, we're optimistic we can have success come the end of the season.
I think it's all looking very good, I think, as well. Given the build up to the end of last season, you seem to have picked up right where you left off. How quickly or how easy is it to kind of get over the loss and go, right, no, let's get the positive vibrations going again and get that win next?
Yeah, I think the evening of the game you feel glum, a bit down and devastated, and maybe coming in the day after as well, everyone's a bit subdued and a bit quiet in the morning for recovery, but then a couple of days later everyone's back to normal. Energy, you can't dwell on it for too long, so we've got another game tomorrow night, so our focus has just turned straight to that. And as you say, just really good energy in training, and everyone's really positive and optimistic and looking to turn the other day's result into something that we can learn from and put our energy into the game tomorrow.
Buzzy, I'm sure you will. And of course, as well, we're actually going to be bringing you that game as well, so you'll be able to follow that live. Steve, good evening. Have you scored any more headers since we were last together? Do I need to let the producers know that they need to scrub up on the research?
Well, I was playing football with a dog the other day, and I did head it. I headed one, but I haven't got a goal in the garden. So, yeah, it's still a sore point. Me and Dee's just been talking about it. So, yeah, it's still there. It's still festered.
It's still festered. Hopefully, well, we've got a little quiz. You might have seen at the start of the show, there was a clue. Our game this week is around a mystery blue. We're going to give you 3 clues throughout the show. We're going to ask you to guess who you think it is. So, hopefully the research will be done properly for that one. Paul, great to be back with you. You haven't had any more trips with those 4 lovely trophies of ours, have you, recently? Or
I had a little quick trip to the Middle East last week, the week before. So,
as you do.
Yeah, I was there for a day, which was fantastic. With one of the partners across us. So yeah, I just hope this quiz tonight, I hope the research has been a bit better than the last one.
Well, you'll be pleased to know I've been making sure, I've been scrubbing, the staff have been making sure that they're giving us our full time and attention, so hopefully the quiz will be fine. Right, that's coming up a little bit later, as well as hearing from these guys about what is their favourite European memory. We're going to be getting those from everyone involved in the show today. You can let us know yours as well, of course, because if we win today, that's 100 wins in Europe, an unbelievable feat. But let's see how we're lining up. First place for team news is right here on Matchday Live. Let's head over to FG to find out who is in our starting 11.
Yes, thank you, Kel. Welcome back to the Etihad Stadium. It is time to reveal the Manchester City team news for tonight. In goal, it is Ederson, it's Manuel Akanji, it's John Stones, Ruben Diaz, the captain, Josko Vardiol, Mateo Kovacic, Rico Lewis, Nunes, Foden, Grealish and Haaland. The substitutes of Manchester City: Stefan Ortega, Scott Carson, Kyle Walker, Calvin Phillips, Nathan Ake, Jeremy Doku, Rodrigo, Julian Alvarez, Bernardo Silva and Oscar Bob. Joining me pitchside, it is with great pleasure to say is Andy Morrison. Andy, let's talk about the team news. Any surprises?
Well, I think Haaland is the obvious one. We thought on Saturday, we're fingers crossed that it wasn't too serious. Maybe he'll miss the midweek and come back for Chelsea, but back in brilliant. I mean, that's great news for me. It means there's nothing too much to worry about.
It's a massive, massive boost indeed. Let's talk about the back 4. Let's start from the back firstly. We're playing a little bit of a game here, and we're trying to work out who's playing at full-back. We imagine it's Josko Vardiol at left-back. Is it going to be John Stones? Is it going to be Manu Akanji at right-back? I'll leave it to you, Andy.
Well, I think John Stones is the most comfy to step into midfield, whether he steps in from a centre-half position or from a full-back position. I think that maybe just push Kovacic on to create 2 10s with Nunes. But, who knows? Who knows?
There is no Rodri in the starting 11 today. He's getting a well-deserved rest. He covers so many miles on the pitch, and he's very much the glue in this team. Of course, when he doesn't play, it's an opportunity for somebody else. It looks like it could be Rico in front of the back 4 with Kovacic. That's what we presume.
Yeah, I'm not until it actually kicks off. I mean, we are second guessing in every area, but it's a massive positive that it's a point tonight. We'll win guarantees, but a point should be enough. And give Rodri a chance, because he is pivotal to everything that we do. And you don't want to laud one player with that load, but the facts are they speak for themselves. The games he missed, we struggled in. And he is unique at this moment in time in world football. I could stand here for the next half an hour after talking about him. He's that good. So yeah, great rest up for him, ready for Chelsea.
And I think everybody watching Matchday Live could listen to Andy for half an hour talking about Rodri because he is exceptional. Another man who's been exceptional is Julian Alvarez, who's not in the starting 11 today, but Nunes steps in. The most recent signing, he's had good glimpses. We've seen good glimpses, especially in this competition.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for him. It's still settling in period, definitely. There's areas that the manager will be looking for. It's not about producing something. Players come and play for Manchester City and come in, and they think they've got to show something. There's a method and a way that City do things under Pep, and it's about keeping the ball and don't give the ball away. And there's been a few occasions where the ball's been a little bit. It's been a bit sloppy in possession of the ball, so we'll be looking tonight, make sure that when you've had the ball, make sure you've still got it after you've touched it, and then build from there.
Now, of course, finally, before we head back, Jack Grealish in the starting 11. He was very, very good in the away game, and he's deservedly got a place in the team today. Might have a bit of a point to prove, potentially.
I don't think he's got a point to prove, other than the ego that a young footballer has. You know, he'll be watching that game, he'll be a smile, he'll be happy for Doku, but he'll want to be on the pitch. And we spoke about it the weekend. Can they play together? Yes, they can. Yeah. But players are really proud, and they want to be playing on that pitch. And tonight, it is a chance. What a night. Looking at the pitch there, you know, this is what I miss most about football. Nights like this, fast pitch, a little bit of rain. It's going to be a great occasion.
It is indeed, and of course, if we do win, it's 100 wins for Manchester City in Europe, which is incredible. Andy, thank you so much. Let's head back to Kel in the studio.
FG, thank you so much. Andy Morrison, thank you, sir. You can hear Andy Morrison, who is with Alistair Mann this evening for your commentary on the game. So you can get that on the Manchester City app, where you can get loads of exclusive content as well. Right, starting 11, let's discuss. Paul, we're going to begin. We're trying to work out who we think is going to be in defensive midfield. That's what we were chatting about before the show, so it feels right we start there. You're thinking there could possibly be something that Andy didn't pick up on of maybe a John Stones in the middle instead of Rodri?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. I think, you know, Akanji, I think probably play right back. We've got John Stones, Ruben Diaz and Guardiola left back. Looking at it there, but I think Rico Lewis might play there and have Akanji alongside Ruben Diaz. Guardiola's the back four, and I can see John Stones moving into that midfield role, especially with no Rodri there.
Yes.
You know, we've seen him do it from centre half, we've seen him do it for right back. We've seen him come on in there in that position, and wherever he plays, he's fantastic. And if MD out of that group of players can go and fill in that Rodri role, it's John Stones.
I agree. I think as well, I think we've been saying that on a couple of shows ago, and Pep Guardiola speaking before today's game just about how important John is to play in the way that we want to play. Esme, how difficult is it? Well, first of all, actually, have you ever had to train that, you know, as a defender moving into midfield? Is that something you practice and work on?
Yeah, there's a couple of us in the squad who are often asked to do that role, either coming in from full-back or moving in from centre-back a little bit higher, but I probably can't say any of us do it as well as John Stones did. He looks so natural, especially in the Champions League towards the latter stages last season, moving from centre-back higher up into the 8 in attacking midfield, and he was better than most of the midfielders across the competition, to be fair to him. So it's it's a really different skill set. Obviously, when you're at the back, either centre-back or full-back, everything's pretty much 180 degrees in front of you, whereas you have to have so much more awareness when you move into midfield of what's around you. But I think it's quite fun getting on it, being able to turn, thread some fancy forward passes. You don't often get to do that elsewhere.
No, not at all. I mean, sorry,
just on that, Esme, it might be a stupid question. Is it easier doing that from centre half or right back, or is it much of the same?
It's really quite similar, just the timing of it, because a lot of the time when you're doing it from full-back, if the ball's on the opposite side, then you've got plenty of time to move in central. But obviously, if it's on your side, then there's not really opportunity to do that. So from centre-back, you're a lot closer to be able to just step forward 10 yards rather than coming in from the touchline 20 yards. So I'd probably say it's a bit quicker to get into the position from centre-back.
For Rico Lewis, Steve, and we're going to do a little focus on him because it's 12 months he's been part of the first team. He's had an incredible first year with some amazing, feats achieved already. But before we speak about kind of him and his 12 months, him playing further forward, how do you feel about that? If it is him that's in that midfield three, why do you think Pep maybe has opted for that?
Well, first of all, I think the manager's got confidence in him. And I think that for a player, if you've got that from your manager, but if you've got it from Pep Guardiola, it must give you a huge boost. We all know how good he is. Mm-hmm. We all know, his ability. And more importantly, he's confident in there. And he's comfortable in there. As I said, we've spoke about, I think if you're a centre-half or a full-back, to break into the middle of the pitch, it's a little bit easier because everything's kind of in front of you. Whereas if you're kind of central, your head's got to be massively on a swivel. But the many times that I have seen him play, he's got such good awareness. And I think, obviously, and I know Dickie mentioned that John Stones could possibly play in there and he could play right back. But I think if he's playing in that position, I think he'll just fit in there very, very well.
Pretty seamlessly.
Whoever's playing right back will end up going into that position anyway, into the midfield position with the back three. We've seen that so many times. Yeah,
I guess as well, actually, because you've got 3-4 of them we've seen do it, there's probably just going to be constant rotation anyway. If Rico's there for a bit, it might be even a Kanji that's dropped in and vice versa. Must be so difficult for opponents then to try and keep on top of the team,
It's difficult for us trying to work out who's going to play where. We watch them every week, you know, and 3 times a week sometimes. So for an opponent manager trying to set up against them, I think an opponent manager, you've just got to concentrate on your shape. I don't think you can look at how City's going to set up as in the personnel. We pretty much know the formation that they're going to play, but as in the personnel, you would have sleepless nights going into the game wondering who's going to play where, because so many players in that team, probably every player apart from Erling, can rotate in the different positions that they're in. Yeah, it's quite scary. Moving into the midfield then, Kovacic and Núñez start. We've probably seen a bit more of Kovacic over Núñez. How important is a game like tonight for those two, and what do you think they'll kind of bring to the play?
I think it's just trying to get rhythm. It's difficult when you're in and out of the team to get momentum in yourself and find your form. So it's just trying to put in a strong performance and demonstrate to Pep what they can do if they do get opportunities. But I've really liked glimpses that I've seen of Núñez. I think he just picks up really intelligent positions and he creates a lot of chances. So I've enjoyed watching him. And Kovacic, similarly, I just like how he can wriggle out of tight spaces and keeps it simple, keeps the ball moving. And I suppose that is his role coming in to replace Gundogan, really, and I think he's done a really good job of it so far. Yeah, I think he's one of the best ball carriers in the Premier League. What have you made of Núñez from the bits you've seen so far, Steve?
Well, when he was at Wolves, I liked watching him play. I thought he was a very good player. And when he's came in to the team, again, he comes in and it's like seamless as though he's been there ages. And I think a lot of credit's not only got to go to him, but I think it's got to go to his teammates as well. You know, they allow him to do what he wants to do, but obviously, you know, he knows his roles and responsibilities. But him, he just fits in there really well. It's ridiculous at the moment because you've got that much quality and you can interchange your team, which Pep does that. But everyone that comes in just seems to just blend in as though like they've been there all the time. Yeah, I wanted to ask as well. We saw when we had them few games without Rodri, massive impact, you know, and there was a lot of talk, particularly from other fans. Is there a slight concern, you know, that he's not starting today? Is it because does it in the back of the head going, well, no, Rodri, suddenly do we lose the way we play a little bit? Yeah, I think, look, it's an obvious thing to point out because Rodri's so important to how we play, and you know, for me, and I think for anybody who watches Man City, that he's probably the best in that position in the world. You know, so if you're going to miss somebody, like if he's going to be out, you are going to miss him. But you know, the games that we did lose were tight. You know, they could have went either way. And, you know, if we get 2 wins and a draw, because we quite easily could have done. Yes. In the games that we've done, and don't forget, John Stones was just coming back for injury as well. And I think that's why I think we might see John in there tonight. You know, I think Rodri's suspension, the 3 games that he's missed, I think if John Stones had been fit, he would have been the natural successor to go and step in there. Yeah, absolutely. And actually then it's these games like this that'll help us, you know, practice that and get used to maybe an odd game or 2 without Rodri. Moving to the forward side of the pitch, I mean, Jeremy Doku, unbelievable at the weekend. I mean, I was with my granddad earlier and he says he's not seen a player like putting a performance like that since George Best, which is not said lightly from my granddad at all. Will he, of course, be disappointed to not start? You'd have thought he was kind of undroppable, but that's just the rotation policy, isn't it, Esme? Yeah, it's the quality of the squad, and he's had a lot of minutes recently and been outstanding, and I think it's natural that he's maybe given a rest, given a game to sort of reset, so he's ready to go and fly against Chelsea. But I liked what Pep said about him in his press conference after the game, that he does something to the crowd. Because it reminds me a bit of Lauren Hemp on our team. When you get the ball, there's sort of audible gasps in the crowd and there's a sense of anticipation of what's going to happen next, and you absolutely get that with Doku. Like, he's just so exciting to watch, lightning, and he just captivates everyone. Your eyes are drawn to him when he gets the ball. Well, does it? You feel a ripple effect on you players as well? We feel it as fans, but you know, as their teammates, do you feel it as well? You kind of like get them on the ball. Yeah, it might happen. Give them the ball because you feel like they've got the momentum. You feel like the opposition don't want them to get on the ball, and you think if they're flying like he's been, just keep feeding him. He's confident. He'll take people on, and defenders don't want to play against players who are in that sort of form. No, especially in best one-on-one, I think, in the league at the moment. And finally, great to see the knock from Haaland went off at half-time. I know Andy Morrison mentioned it there as well, Steve, but clearly fit enough to start again, which is great news. Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously, he'll be thinking he can get a couple of goals tonight. I think when we discussed it on Saturday, we were thinking, as the manager maybe spoke to them and just sort of said, listen, play 45 minutes and come off. But as I said, we found out was an ankle knock. But thankfully, it's not too serious. If it was, I'm pretty sure the manager would have just sort of said, "Listen, just rest it for today," because it's not as though they haven't got people to put in, because they have. But he's obviously keen to start, get some goals, and hopefully get through this with a couple of goals, and then look forward to the weekend's game.
Absolutely, and a few goals from him hopefully will secure that 100th European win. Let's not forget as well, we have won every game at the Etihad this calendar year in all competitions, so let's hope that record continues as well. Right, we touched upon him, but we want to do a little focus on the legend that is Rico Lewis. I say legend, he's kind of secured that status in just 12 months, because it is around a year ago that he broke onto the scene against Seville, and the rest is history. Now, before we look at some of these brilliant milestones of his career so far, let's take a look at some of his best bits from his press conference yesterday. He spoke so well. Check this out.
In terms of being a person, I'd probably say I'm the same. But in terms of a player, I'm in and around the best manager, the best players in the world. So it's almost impossible to not develop as a player. Whether you're playing or not, training every day with the best people. You're gonna develop yourself.
When was the first time you kind of realised, wow, I'm famous, my life's different now?
I don't know, it's probably not a direct point, but just when, like, going to the co-op or going to Tesco and I've got to take a picture of someone, something like that, when I'm trying to shop for food. And I think obviously it's for me, I don't mind it, because it's, you dream of being a footballer and that's what comes with it. So but that was probably
enjoying that side of it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's Rico Lewis. He was speaking in the press conference before the game yesterday alongside Pep. Incredible, really. 2nd November, he became the youngest player ever to score in his first Champions League start. Then he became the youngest City player to start a Premier League game since Mika Richards. That was on the 28th of December. And then he had his start against Spurs in the 5th and 6th games, which I think also he started on left-back as well, which just goes to show the trust he has. And then, of course, within those first 12 months, he was a treble winner. Paul, first of all, let's speak about him as a footballer. How impressive is he at right back, but also in centre mid and wherever else he pops up?
Yeah, he's been off the scale since he came into the team. Steve spoke earlier about Pep trusting him. I think the biggest thing for me is his teammates trusting him. We've all been there ourselves when you've been young kids coming through and slightly nervous going into the first team, and you're that desperate to get that trust in the players. But I've been in situations, especially as a young kid at Arsenal, where the senior players will look at you and they won't give you the ball because they don't quite trust you yet, and you've got to build that. But he's got that very quickly, and seeing him in training sessions and especially in the game, the fact that he's took that right back role, whether he's starting right back and going into midfield, his football awareness is unbelievable. And then starting midfield, same there, he started at left back. For somebody so young and from where he came from, and I know we've spoke about it before, but the fact that Pep actually hadn't seen him play till he went away pre-season last summer, and after a couple of training sessions he was like, wow, who is this kid? And he's just got better and better. But the thing about it, away from being a player, that his interview there was so endearing.
Yes.
He's so humble, he's so grounded, but he's so determined. You put him on the pitch, he's like a terrier. He's so determined to do well and show everybody that he belongs there, and he does.
Esme, when was the first you heard or about Rico, or maybe even came across him?
Well, in the academy, obviously we share the training space with them, and a lot of the time on the screens in the canteen or around the training ground, they'll have academy highlights on it, and so you get to know some of the young lads from seeing them around in the gym, but also just from watching the highlights on the screen. And there'd always be the odd one of him popping up with a goal, even though he's maybe playing deeper in midfield. And there's pictures of him when they brought out the Premier League trophy a few years back, didn't they, all the captains of the youth team?
Yes.
So he's got that picture in the reception of the academy, and so I think it's really cool that just a couple of years ago he was bringing out the Premier League trophy as one of the academy captains ahead of the team lifting it. And then obviously last year, one season into his professional career, he's got one of his own.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And as a player and his ability that you've seen, obviously we know you're just you're playing as well. What do you see on the pitch from him that separates him maybe from other players that are around his age?
I think similar to what Paul said, just the intelligence and awareness of game situation, the positions he needs to take up, which pass to play. But I think it's testament to the strength of the academy and the coaching system that City have got in place, because he will have been put in all of those situations in training, in academy games, coming through the system. And so for Pep to ask him to slot into a fullback role moving into midfield would seem so natural, and it's not something he'd have to learn once he's in the first team. He's already acquired those skills.
Yeah, so true. I guess we kind of forget, actually, there's so many years and years and years that have gone into that point that, of course, when they arrive, you know, they're kind of tried and tested. With Rico, obviously, he's still, under 20. And I think even when we've had Brian Barry Murphy on the show, I remember chatting to him off camera, and he says, from even bits I've seen when he was coming through, we've not even seen half of it yet. The potential of him still feels frightening, and actually where his game could potentially go, Steve.
I think that's the key word, frightening. I think when you look at him and how far he's come in such a short space of time is testament to him. But I think it's also a testament to the manager and the players that have obviously they'll be talking to him all the time. As I said, he gets put into situations, and for me, it looks as though he's been there all his career.
Yeah.
And that step up, yes, the academy, the intensity is very high, but that step up again and then again to the Premier League and with these players is huge. And he said it there in the interview. He's surrounded by top players, and you have to get better, because if you don't get better, you don't play with these top players again. But the future for him is absolutely amazing, and what he could do. He's just obviously going to have to get used to getting the photographs in Tesco's or Asda, wherever it was he was going into.
Of course, one of my favourite things about the interview as well was his own. He has obviously high expectations for himself, but when he talked about getting called up for England, which he says is a dream, but he's like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it does, it does. And I just think that's such a brilliant mentality to have. Another thing I picked up on yesterday, which I wanted to kind of put to you all, is Pep said in the long run, he sees Rico Lewis's position actually being as an attacking midfielder. And the reason that I found that interesting is what I've usually seen with Pep is it's attacking midfielders being put into a fullback, you know, Delph, Zinchenko. So with your insight, what is it that Pep's seeing that's making him go, actually, he's one of the ones that's going to subvert the convention and go the other way? Why do you think he does see him further down the line as an attacking midfielder?
That's a tough question, that, isn't it?
Do you like that?
Yeah, I do like that.
I prepared that one.
I know, you kept going to give me time to think about it as well. I just think he's so good in the ball, and we spoke about it there, his awareness as well. But when you watch him play fullback, he wants to go forward. You know, he's seen his game against Seville in his Champions League debut there. You know, he's played fullback that game, but not as an inverted one, not as I've gone into midfield. He did actually play as fullback. You know, and when Julian Alvarez gets the ball, he's the one that's going, he's the furthest one forward. So Pep's obviously seen in his football intelligence that he can go further forward, but for his development now, you know, as you said there, and he's starting as right back, he's moving into midfield. It's the next step now going forward. And the games we've seen pre-season when he started midfield against Bayern Munich, he was the one that was going forward all the time as well. You know, in the Champions League game a couple of weeks ago when he was in there, he was the one that was pushing on and making to make that third man run all the time. As we've seen a lot from the midfielders, you know, the ball goes up, comes back, and then somebody's going in down the side for the big switch. And Rico's the one that's making that runs, even though he's playing as a fullback or in midfield, he's still the one that's getting forward.
He's also touched upon Pep as well, which, I mean, obviously each player brings something else to the team, but how, I think we saw the back end of the season when we struggled in moments, he turned to Rico to change the way we play. I guess there's players within your squad as well that when they come in, it just enables you to do things slightly differently, which I guess is another great asset that Rico Lewis brings to the team, Esme.
Yeah, I think when we're looking at what Pep sees in him that will move him higher up, it's his decision making on the ball. When you're higher up the pitch, you've got less time to make the decisions, so you have to be so sharp in deciding what pass to play and the split second of when to play it. That's what players like De Bruyne are so brilliant at. Yeah. They hesitate and then they wait for the right moment to play the pass through that means the defence are completely split, and so Pep will see those sorts of attributes in Rico and see that'll lend itself to him being higher up and being more of a creator.
I think I was just going to say, I think that obviously Pep said that what he said about possibly he's going further forward. Yeah, we see him on game day, but what we're not privy to is what happens on the training pitch. And he could be putting them in these kind of situations, and he sees them, and he's maybe not used them as yet in those areas as much as what he would. But I think he's obviously got an idea of, So when the time's right, he will be in those positions because I've seen him in training day in, day out.
Fantastic, brilliant stuff. Thank you, guys. Well, let's hear from someone who also knows young Rico Lewis very well. One of our own, Jolien Lescott, of course, has coached him as well. He is pitchside with FG, and we can hear what he makes of our young Mancunian star.
Yes, thank you, Kel, joining me pitchside. It's none other than Manchester City legend and overall legend, Jolien Lescott. Jolien, we're approaching potentially 100 European wins for Manchester City. It's only right that I ask you the question, being a part of it, what's been your best memory playing in the team in
amazing
Europe?
achievement. Hopefully it happens tonight. Obviously, the opening game, Napoli at home, hearing that music. But for me, the best stadium I've played in as well has been Allianz Arena. So games there's been some great games, not all great results, but yeah, great occasion to play there with the history that club and that stadium has in this competition. So yeah, definitely the Allianz Arena.
You spoke about the anthem. Like, obviously we've seen what it means from a fan's point of view, but as a player, getting to that point, getting into the Champions League, what was that occasion like?
No, it means the same. You got to remember that a lot of players, pretty much all players, are fans that are just lucky enough to have made it. So I was warned about that, the feeling you'd get when you hear that music for the first time. And it's not only the first time, it's literally every time you hear it, you just sense tingles, because we all remember as kids getting home from school, watching Champions League games and hearing the music. So yeah, it was something that was very special.
And 100 wins would be a superb achievement. Let's talk about the level of the Champions League, because it's been talked about so much by everybody, ex-players, managers. When you go into the Champions League, it is a different ballgame. Did you feel that straight away?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's the highest level of competition. The biggest honour is to represent your country, but in terms of the level of quality, it's Champions League. The best players on show that want to perform, and being restricted games and across Europe in terms of the leagues, it's the most eyes on it. So yeah, if you have a good game or a bad game, it's highlighted more, but again, the attention is all on you because it's the Champions League.
Let's talk about Rico Lewis real quick. Now, he's a defender. It's nearly a year, approaching a year when he scored that goal in the Champions League and went on a lovely little celebration. It flowed so well. He's a special talent, isn't he, Jolien?
Yeah, very special, highly intelligent as well. We've seen him transform games for us as a team, none more so than the Chelsea game way last season. So yeah, Rico Lewis is a huge talent, exciting player, and someone that you can see is very passionate about playing for Man City.
Where is his best position, Jolien?
I don't know, he's probably one of the new talented level of hybrid players that you see can operate in a number of positions in one game. He can start obviously as a right back, but he can operate in midfield, so yeah, he's just talented.
Well, you can probably see that the Manchester weather is definitely here. It's pouring down, so let's head back to the studio where Kel's very dry. Thanks, Jolien.
We are indeed, FG. Maybe you might want to grab yourself a brolly. I know Nat's always good for a brolly, so see if you can find her. Thanks, Jolien, as well. Right, remember, we want you to get involved with the show. Very simple. You just use that number that's popped up on your screen there. That's our WhatsApp, and maybe you can let us know what you're thinking, or if you've got a question, get it in, just like Brad has done already. So I'll quickly put this to you, Steve. Brad asked, any worries today about the midfield? No Bernardo, no Walker, no Rodri. Do you anticipate probably Foden staying wide this game as well?
Well, he might start off there, but I think as what's been mentioned is, the players do tend to interlink and move around. I don't think there's any specific kind of you stop there type thing. I think players, as the game goes on, they get a feel of where they're getting joy, where they're not getting joy, and kind of move around and speak to each other. As I said, with the players that they've got in, yes, he's mentioned players that's not in the starting lineup, but look at the players that are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Right, so that was Brad's question on WhatsApp. You can do the same, just use that number on your screen. We are, of course, taking on young boys, so let's see how they are lining up. We've got Alistair Mann, who is on the commentary team with Andy Morrison. He's joined by Ali McCoy, so here they are, pitchside.
Yes, welcome back to Pitchside at the Etihad. It's time to reveal the young boys team to face Manchester City. In goal is Racciopi, and then it is Janko, Amenda, Kamara the captain, Benito, Garcia, Ugninic, Lauper, Nias, Elia and Itten. Joining me pitchside is, of course, Andy Morrison, and a man with a 100% record on Matchday Live, Ali McCoy. Ali, we've seen the team. How do you think the young boys are going to set up today? Do you think it's going to be a defensive job?
I do. I looked at their team when they went to Chop at the weekend. They won 4-1 at the weekend. They played with Diamond. I don't see that happening, to be brutally honest. I hope they do and make it an entertaining game for us. We'll see plenty of goals. I think they'll set up a lot more defensively and potentially try and hit City in the break. It would make sense, I think obviously the home game we saw City, a tough place to go to with the surface and things like that, but City were too good, and I expect them to show City respect. I don't expect them to attack. I think they'll sit back. I think they'll play in a counter, and I think that's how the game will go.
Andy, we spoke about the surface off camera. Let the people watching Matchday Live what you think about the surface out in Young Boys.
Well, I didn't like it. The ball skids, and it takes, you probably have to be playing on it a fair bit to be able to measure the pace of the game, and it looked as though the lads struggled with it for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, but then obviously the quality came through and we were far better than them, but it's not a great surface to play on.
Of course, when the group got announced, Young Boys would have looked at it and they would have said, okay, Leipzig are in the group as well. The position they're in the group now, they're 1 point with Belgrade. Is it a case of them fighting for that third spot, do you think?
Realistically, yes, to be quite honest with you. And they'll have a tough... I know I think it was a 2-2 draw in Belgrade, which was a good result for them. I know that actually Belgrade Red Star scored late on in that particular game as well. I honestly think for them to finish third would be an achievement for them, because I think the previous 3 times they finished bottom of the group. It's a big ask for them, it really is. You look at the quality of the sides, particularly Leipzig and indeed City. I think third would be an achievement for them, I really do.
It would be an achievement indeed. And speaking of achievements, if we win today, it's our 100th win in Europe, which we will keep mentioning on Matchday Live, but we have to get the thoughts of both of you. We'll start with yourself, Andy. Memories of City in Europe. Is there anything that stands out? Is there any moments that you've loved?
It's obviously the final. I was at the final, but the Real Madrid game at home. I did the co-commentary for that game, and I said at half-time, and I asked my presenter with me as well to make sure I'm not getting carried away when I said it was the best 45 minutes of football I've ever seen. We were 3-0 up. It could have been 6-7, but from the performance from the goalkeeper, and we were phenomenal, and that's the standout for me. We had to go past Bayern, had to go past Madrid,
and you can see the heavens have opened. So I'll ask you very quickly about your relish in it. You're a Scotsman.
I'm Scottish, remember. This doesn't scare me. I'm going to be pretty boring. In fact, I've got to say that first 45 minutes against Real Madrid, I thought City were absolutely unbelievable. And do you know what I always remember? I'll never forget it. Was it Vinicius Junior? I think he fancied a slicer of Walker, did a bit of pace, and the big man was up for it. And I actually think he had another gear, that way. Yeah. Well, I don't know that way. I know how to watch it, and I think he had another gear. That was excellent, but clearly the big one's got to be the final. We win in the final. Rodri's goal, magnificent memories.
I don't think any City fan will argue with that, but it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. Thank you for joining us again, and Andy, as always, thank you. Let's head back to Kel, who's nice and dry in the studio.
Thanks, FG. Thank you to Andy Morrison and Ali McCoyster as well. Always great to get his thoughts. So, Young Boys, Paul, obviously we were 3-1 winners in the first part of this, which was a couple of weeks ago, away from home in Switzerland. How impressed were you with them, particularly in those first 30 minutes? There wasn't much in it at all.
There wasn't, but I always felt it looked comfortable. I know before the game at half-time, we were sitting here and we weren't making excuses for the pitch, but it does make a difference. It was wet. It was skidding around everywhere. The bounce was different, but I thought we were comfortable. They had a little spell just after half time where they got their goal, hitting us in the break. But I didn't see anything that night that's going to come and scare us tonight. They've got Ugrinic in there, it's in the big centre forward, Elia, who's quick, but apart from that, and it's no disrespect to them, they've done fantastic to get where they are at the minute. Ali said there about getting the 2-2 draw in Belgrade when everybody expected Belgrade to beat them. So they're probably playing for third, like the lad said there, but I didn't see anything last week and seen anything that team sheet now that's going to scare me at all. Not with the team we've got out tonight. No,
I agree, to be honest with you. And it's difficult, isn't it, Esme, for any team coming to the Etihad, but with the form that we're in, as I say, we've not lost at home in this whole calendar year in all competitions. What do you think they'll be thinking kind of coming here? Still coming for the result, but I guess also conscious maybe not wanting it to be too much of a big scoreline.
Yeah, I think it's striking a balance between having the mentality that we've got nothing to lose, so just play with freedom, enjoy it, relax, go for it maybe. And then there's a part of you that thinks, well, if we open ourselves up too much, this could be embarrassing, because we've seen City when teams are expansive against us and maybe try and come and press and we just pick them off, completely take them to the cleaners. And so it is hard for any team coming to the Etihad, I think, to balance going for a result and trying to get a point or maybe 3 and trying not to get too hurt by the dangerous attack that we've got.
Do you think it'll be similar, maybe approach to what we maybe saw in Switzerland, where they obviously kind of did a bit of pressing, but kind of was sat back, and then as we saw with those counters, I mean that was the goal as well in the second half. Do you think that's probably what they'll be opting for again, Steve?
Yeah, I kind of see them wanting to play expansive football. I think they'll be very naive to do that, because we know the quality that City have. I think there will be a case of sitting back and can the counter. I'm pretty sure the manager's given them instructions that, keep it as tight as we can. Can we catch them on the counter attack? But the last thing they want to be doing is shipping an early goal, and then all of a sudden the floodgates open, because, of course, as I said, Alan McCoyster's mentioned there, I think they'll be delighted to get third place, but that could go out of their hands if they concede a good few goals tonight.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned there, Paul.
Sorry, I'm not having that. They're like, they're on a stadium tour with their phones out. And maybe I'm old school. They've got a game coming up. Focus on the game, never mind your Instagram. Anyway, go on.
City are massive,
Sorry.
Paul. It's just an honour to be at the Etihad.
Do you know what I mean, Esme?
Not having it.
On something you said there, obviously we talked about, there was the bit of conversation around the pitch in that leg. But then on the flip side of it, though, for these boys, if they're so used to playing on that surface, it's going to be different for them playing on our surface.
It will. Look, the Etihad, it's a big pitch, but when you play against Manchester City, it seems double the size as well. And they did, whether it's at home, they did try and press us a little bit high up the pitch. That's how they play in the Swiss League, and they've been successful at doing it. But I can't, for the life of me, see them doing that tonight. With the quality that we've got in the pitch. You would think they're going to sit in like most teams do and try and hit us in the break, but we're used to every team that comes to the Etihad to doing that anyway. So, say there's no disrespect to them; they've done fantastic to get where they've got to, but I can't see anything in there that's going to trouble us tonight.
Lovely.
And I hope I don't regret saying that later on.
No, I'm sure not. I mean, they're taking up the pitch now to start their warm-up. So we're bringing you more live pictures from the Etihad as and when we work through the show. If you've just tuned in, welcome to Matchday Live with me, Cel Spellman. We've got Paul here, we've got Esme, and we've got Steve. Thank you for joining us. WhatsApp questions is on that number there on your screen. But up next, I wanted to talk about something that we've seen pop up in a few games. I wanted to get your brilliant insight. It's around training ground moves, because we've noticed this season a few goals that have been quite similar. It kind of starts with Rodri in the middle. There's a run that comes deep from Kyle Walker, who kind of plays the ball across, using someone in the near post who flicks it on, and then it kind of ends up in the back of the net. It's happened kind of 3 times. I think we might be able to show. We've got a Foden goal against Forest here to kind of show what we're talking about. So let's see how this one plays out here. There's the main man after a brilliant performance at the weekend. Here comes the run over at the back. Not back down. Foden with the finish there for that one. That was against Nottingham Forest. There was a similar one then against United as well. I think it resulted in a save, so we'll show that in just a second. But Paul, we've popped this one in here to show it again, and we spoke about how much goes on behind the scenes on the training pitch. There it is again, out to Walker, knocked back in. How often are these moves practiced in the training ground? But then obviously it's one thing to practicing them on the training ground, then finding the moment in the game when it presents itself. So how does it transfer from the training pitch to what we see there?
Esme and Steve will tell you the hardest thing to do in a match day is transfer what you've done in training into the game, whether it be Champions League Tuesday night or a Premier League game this Saturday, because it's completely different. But the football intelligence these players have got just shows you how we can do it, and there's no doubt it's been worked on. Whether it's been Doku and predominantly it's us going down the left hand side, coming back into Rodri, then out to Kyle or whoever's on the right hand side, because if it's Jack, if it's Doku, they're attracting 2 players all the time, so they're bringing players out to them, so it's then creating the overload. Because opposite fullback, if their centre halves, midfielders are getting dragged over, they have to tuck in. They can't stay out wide, whether it be with Kyle, whether it be with Phil, and the other things we've seen there, so they've got to tuck in. So as soon as that ball goes back to Rodri, the big switch is on all the time, and there's no doubt it's been worked on. I mean, it'd be interesting. Do you work on a similar thing?
Yeah, it'd be something that would be picked up in like the analysis sessions. So pretty much every morning we'll go into the auditorium and they'll have clips ahead of the upcoming game of opposition's trends and stuff. And they will have watched in those matches Nottingham Forest, United, just banking up, back line on the edge of the box, midfield just 5 yards in front, and so Rodri's got that pocket of space around the edge of the centre circle to just operate, pick up the ball and spray it. And as you say, the opposition fullback's got to tuck round and their eyes are going to be drawn to Rodri on the ball, so a run off the back shoulder can be so dangerous, and that's something we work on a lot, whether it be the fullback making the run or an 8 or a 10 making the run after the centre back's eyes are drawn to the ball, because it's so difficult for defenders to be aware of what's going on the ball and the runners around you. So yeah, it will have been something that was picked up in analysis when they're watching the opposition, and then something that's then transferred to the training pitch and brilliantly then transferred to a match day.
To the match day. And I know Jolene spoke about this Paul, you've mentioned it when you're fortunate enough to go see training, but there is so much hard work and dedication, also persistence to get that drilled into them. It's not just once or twice, it's continuous. Jolene does say people don't realise how hard you guys actually do work on the training pitch.
Yeah, there's a lot of repetition of every phase of play really, but given that City spend the most time in the opposition half on the ball, they will do so many patterns of play, practicing playing against a team that's defending in a deep block, and so they'll see those pictures so frequently.
Steve, from back in your, do you remember kind of being on the training pitch, and maybe if it was set plays or moves within a match that could possibly present itself, and you would practice them and then hope maybe the opportunity came in the actual game?
Yeah, I don't think we practice on a great deal of things, to be quite honest. I know it's out, if I'm being brutally honest.
Just used to launch it into the channels from the chase.
Challenge, and if anything that dropped down, you're expecting Dickie and the rest of the boys to try and stick it in the back of the net. The clubs that I was at, we didn't actually spend a lot of time. Obviously we played against teams that were drilled, were organised, but we had a team, certainly under Kevin, that he was just kind of thinking, listen, we've got good players, let's just go out and beat them, pretty much. Look at the team. But as I said, when you played against teams that are well drilled and well organised and have got like little set players or stuff where we've just sort of seen now with Man City, with the goal with Kyle Walker getting in, it's difficult because you are in a situation as a fullback, you've got to tuck in, because if you don't, you're getting absolutely called worse than rotten off your centre half because you haven't tucked in, because then there's the big gap. But yeah, you look at a lot of teams, you look at corner kicks and free kicks that teams work on now, and they must work on it for ages and ages. And yes, as a player, when you are doing set plays and stuff like that, it can be a little bit, shall we say, boring, a bit monotonous. But when it comes off on game day, it's all worthwhile.
And that's also where we see with City, sometimes when the passing becomes so instinctual, that is because it's drilled in that much. When they play, remember you saying actually, I think on a show, that sometimes when a pass gets played and say it looks like there's no one there, and you go, well, why have you passed it into empty space? Actually, you guys have told me, no, it's not the person that's passing that's done the problem there. It's the person that should have been there. And that's, and that's kind of, that's what's worked on the training ground, isn't it?
It is, and Steve said boring there. Esme said repetition, and it can get boring as a player when you're doing it. But and said at the very start, the hardest thing is to take from the training pitch onto the pitch with the crowd, with the pressure that's on there, to actually go out there and do it. And the opposition team might set up differently than what you think, which causes another thing. But these players are so intelligent in what they're doing football-wise, but they're all fantastic players, but that comes from being well drilled every day in the training ground leading up to the game. And they'll be talking about how they're going to play even now, going into the changing room. The analysts will be there. There'll be stuff up on the board, there'll be stuff on the computer, there'll be lots of things they can go and see. And that's not for all players, Some players like to sit back and think about it themselves. Other players need to know constantly. They need to look at what they're doing, who they're picking up, where they're supposed to be going. And it's a personal thing. But whatever works, and it's definitely working, is for the individual, that then the collective comes into it.
This might sound like a silly question, Esme, but when it does transfer to an actual game day, is it a feeling where you all can feel someone go, oh, this is it, or is it more like a picture presents itself on the pitch that you all twin go, actually, this is what we kind of did in training? I don't know, how does suddenly everyone just click into play with it?
I think that's it. It just clicks when you've set the opposition up in training to look a certain way, and then it's the same in the match. Then all of the moves that you've practiced tend to just slot in exactly. And if it's something like a corner routine, we end up scoring. The coaches are then buzzing, so proud of themselves that whatever routine they've schemed together has paid off. But it is a good feeling because you think, oh, that made sense then. We've seen that in training, that was worthwhile and it works. So it obviously then just gives you confidence moving forward that the things that you're seeing will then just slot straight into a match situation.
Yeah, I love also seeing sometimes when a coach would celebrate and they turn to someone on the bench and go, it must have come from them. Also, set plays massive in the game at the weekend. I think from our corners, we obviously scored 2 goals and 3 big chances created, so just see how important they are. Right, let's get to our game this week. I say that tentatively. Don't worry, the research will be done.
Yeah, we might as well go, because the answers will be wrong. We'll give the right answers, but they'll go, no, we've done our research.
Should we go to a coffee?
Nonsense.
We've not even started yet.
We've not started. That's it.
My nose has been well and truly put out.
But we've been speaking about trust, haven't we? They need to win back our trust here.
Do you know what? When we're going to get a show further down the line, we'll do another higher or lower game and we'll make sure it's correct every single step of the way. It's the only way, isn't it?
Trust.
Well, this week it's not higher or lower, it's mystery player. So we're going to give you 3 clues. We've given you one already at the start of the show, which was this one. This was clue number 1. It says, this man played in one of our most famous European nights against Hamburg. I'll be honest with you, it didn't give too much away for me. Did you have an inkling straight away, Paul?
They've probably got Steve Howey on this lot.
I mean, have we even played Hamburg in the Champions League? That's what we need to check.
Wasn't that when it was the UEFA Cup?
It could
it was.
Hell, well, you got. I've been in my ear. Then about 3 people went, "Ooh, okay,
thanks, guys."
Right, okay, lovely little tip there from Esme. So that's clue number 1. Clue number 2 is this: this man has a connection with a club and the other club's nation this evening. This man has a connection with a club and the other club's nation this evening. Some whispers here in the studio, so I think we might have an answer, but we're not going to get them yet because we've still got a third clue to give you later on in the show. Then we can reveal who our mystery blue is, and we're going to be using our WhatsApp number for you to send in your guesses. That's also where you could send us some questions, which I have got here on my iPad now. So let's take a look at this. Also, actually, you can just let us know your comments. We had one here who's not left the name, just says, such a brilliant young talent. Hope he keeps up this pace, and there's so much more to come. That's hashtag Go Rico. Thank you for that. Kevin has sent us this. He says, has Paul given up on management? If not, would he try to have his team play like Pep's teams?
Given up, I can't get back in.
At least you got it. I didn't get a chance.
Yeah, that boat sailed a long time. I loved every minute of it. I had 5.5 years, but it was difficult.
Yes.
But would I try and get my teams? You've got to have good players, and I didn't have many good players when I was managing. I would love to try and play like Pep, but when you're down, especially the lower leagues, like lower level Championship, where I managed, and in League One, it's needs must. You've got to set up your team to not get beat, to survive, but which was a job I had to do. But yeah, I loved every minute of it, but I don't miss it.
Don't miss it, no. Matthew sent this in. I'm going to open it up to both of you. It's a tricky one, this one. What goal was more important, Paul's or Sergio Aguero's? I asked that question quite a lot anyway. Thank you for that, Matthew. That's
no pressure.
I'm not actually going to say that just because you're here, but without your goal, we would never have got to the Premier League. So
that's very nice. Thank you.
It's all right.
Yeah, but that's my answer. That's usually my answer as well, I think. Would you agree with that, Steve?
Yeah.
I don't mind playing second fiddle to Sergio Aguero and Rodri now.
Yeah, Rodri as well. And this one came in from Mark as well. Which one of you 3 do you think would manage to get into this current Manchester City team?
Esme.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you play for Manchester City's first team, so you're technically kind of already in.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'm
not sure.
Everyone's very modest here in the studio. Very modest.
Just wait until we go off air.
Well, thank you for those questions. As I say, please keep them rolling in. Remember, we bring you a show at half-time, then at full-time, so hopefully we could have a few more to get through a little bit later on. So, as you know, on Champions League nights, our youth team are also in action in the UEFA Youth League. Our under-19s were playing young boys, and they won 3 3-0 against their Swiss opponents today, puts them on the brink of qualification. How it works in the UEFA Youth League is it's an automatic promotion for if you come first, and then you have to go into a playoff game if you come second. So they're guaranteed to be in one of those positions, but haven't quite secured that position. It gets you straight through into the next round. We had 3 goals, and one of them came from none other than Regan Heskey, 15 years old, making his debut in the UEFA Youth League competition, playing alongside his brother Jaden as well, obviously, who plays as a striker. So it's so brilliant. What an absolute story. And we can now hear the thoughts of Brian Barry Murphy, their coach, and Regan's brother Jaden at full time.
Brian, congratulations on extending our unbeaten run in the competition. How did you find that game today?
I enjoyed the game immensely. I think it was obviously different in the second half once we got in front, but I thought the performance was equally pleasing in different ways, and overall a hugely satisfying day for us all, and leads us in very nicely to the next game.
Jaden, congratulations on a huge win for us today. Yeah. How was the game for you?
It was intense, but yeah, it was good to get the win and keep a clean sheet as well at the end. So yeah, similar to the away game, but yeah, we come through in the end. So
I think we always want to be as aggressive as we can. I think there was an understanding that the opponents were pretty aggressive and had as we spoke before, and had done a lot of homework on what happened the last day, and we're obviously looking to close the space centrally. But I thought we were pretty good in our selection, and our centre backs especially got the ball to the wide players, and Regan and Matthew, for such young players, had a really big impact on the scoring in the first half, which was hugely satisfying for them.
And want to ask you about Regan's debut, an impressive performance. What did you make of that?
Well, I think at the club we're synonymous with producing wide players who can beat people 1v1, and it's probably one of the most exciting things in the game to see, and Regan has shown that in his academy journey, how good he is at that aspect of the game, and you definitely saw signs against a much older opponent of his ability to do that, and essentially we I suppose our process or the way that we play takes us to that point, and then we're hopeful that we can produce those players who can create 1v1 situations and produce last action. So his impact on the game was pretty significant in terms of the scoreline.
And a familiar face next to you in that front line, your brother made his debut today. What was it like when you both found out you'd both be starting?
Yeah, it was mad. Well, he was actually at school at the time, and then he found out at school. Then I got a text off my mum saying he was playing, so yeah, it was a surprise. And then we found out today that he was starting, so yeah, it was a big surprise, but it was good. How
confident are you and the team feeling now with those final 2 games?
Pep says all the time about the only way to progress in the Champions League is by one step at a time, and today was the sole focus of the team, because he has a lot more experience of European competition than any of us, and the next step now is going to be Leipzig, which is going to be a huge challenge for us based on what we saw in Leipzig, and that was a very difficult game for us, and we were probably fortunate-ish to come away with a result. So at the Joy Academy Stadium, it'll be a great day for us to test ourselves against them and see how far we've progressed in that space of time.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you play here again in a few weeks' time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Few discussions going on here in the studio about our mystery blue. Esme's got a guess, maybe you've got a guess. One more clue to go in a little bit, then we'll find out who it is. That was Brian Barry Murphy there speaking after our 3-0 win from our under-19s in the UEFA Youth League. Just a quick word on that. By the way, City Plus, 11 p.m. You can watch highlights from that game. How cool is that? Of course, Emil Heskey, of course, is a name we all know in football. Both his sons at the City Academy, and now both his sons starting a game together. 15-year-old Regan Heskey scoring on his debut. I mean, what a story, Paul.
Nah, but Emil will be super proud. I know Jaden has been playing quite a bit and scoring goals, but for 15 coming in and playing alongside your brother. I seen Emil a couple of weeks ago. I was down at Leicester, and I was asking him about his boys, and he was playing it down a little bit, but you could tell he was super proud then. But to have them both play today and for Keegan to score is just, it's an amazing thing. Also, really cool that he got the call when he was at school, Esme, which I just think is amazing. He found out at school that he'd be playing in the youth league, which I think is just epic. Imagine that in maths.
Yeah.
Sorry, miss. I was just going, wow, well, I'm playing for City tonight, so it's a very cool story, isn't it?
Yeah, he'll have been buzzing going out, telling all his classmates, sorry guys, I'm off now. Going to play with my brother. I just think that's such a cute story. I love that.
Did you ever come across any other brother? I know there's the Longstaff brothers at Newcastle, is that right?
Yeah, there's Sean and Matty.
Yeah,
Matty he broke onto the scene. I think he scored on his debut against Man United.
That's right, yeah.
And then kind of petered out a little bit. I'm just trying to think of any other brothers.
No, I just think I've got a younger brother. I just think it must be the dream.
Yeah, there's a lot of brothers, but not many that's played in the same team. I don't think.
Same team. Maybe a good little quiz actually further down.
Sean
or the Nevilles as well.
Just make sure they get research right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The Whitley brothers as well, actually.
Sean and Bradley.
Sean and Bradley, yeah, nice. I know the Fletcher's lads as well. Darren Fletcher's lads are both playing somewhere. I'm not too there, possibly. Neville brothers as well, of course, as well. I've just found out the Fletcher's brothers.
No, don't talk about them anyway.
Now. So it's all about the Heskey brothers. Right, if you've just tuned in, thank you for joining us on Match Day Live. We have got how long? 23 minutes until we kick off against Young Boys. If we win tonight, that will be our 100th European win. So in honour of that, we have throughout the show been asking any of our guests, and same here in the studio, of our favourite European night memories. Obviously so many to choose from. Esme, I'm going to begin with you. What is one of your favourite moments from City's time in Europe?
Well, avoiding the very obvious ones from last season, I loved our comeback win against Bayern Munich. I think it was 2014-15 season.
Spot
on. Late winners. I felt like we had a bit of a knack around this sort of time of making little comebacks in the Champions League. There was although I don't think it was Champions League, maybe it was against Sporting Lisbon.
Yes.
We had a little comeback, and the atmosphere at the ground was just amazing. Like, I used to sit in East Stand Level 3 at that time, and yeah, just the atmosphere and how much the crowd were willing us to come back, and you always felt that we would be able to. Obviously this was after Aguero's most famous comeback moment.
Yes.
So you always got a sense that we were able to do it, and yeah, just really special nights. I think it might have been my birthday as well.
Really?
I feel like it was, yeah. Can someone get that? 18th of October, was it?
Yeah.
I feel like that's ringing a bell.
I'm not sure, as we said, we're working out, we can't fully trust the team yet behind the but they're going to have a little check. I do remember that game as well. And it's funny, isn't it, now to see where we're at, but how key those games are in just building up our history in the competition, and games like that make a massive difference for us moving forward as well, don't they?
Yeah, it's such a big statement, like taking on a Bayern Munich team who historically have been so strong in Europe. Every single year they're always making the last stage of the Champions League, and managed by Pep at the time, I think.
Yes.
So taking that sort of scalp will have just been such a big statement that we are on our way to being European kings, and obviously last year it finally came true.
It really did. Aguero there as well with the hat-trick. Love that. Steve, I'll come to you next. What's one of your favourite memories?
Well, obviously we've got the WhatsApp group, so I was going to put the final, and then I thought I won't. I'll go for the Madrid game. And I mean, I know there's plenty games, so I was going to put the Madrid game. So I was texting that, and Andy Morrison said that one. So I thought, well, I'll go back to the final. And as I was texting that, he put that one. But I still have to, I mean, obviously what Andy sort of said about the first half against Real Madrid. I mean, Real Madrid, full of absolute superstars, and it was a game I just thought we tore them apart.
Yeah.
And for me, it was one of them games where it was just like, yeah, this is a team that can definitely go all the way, because they've had opportunities before and just not quite getting over the line for one reason or another. But I mean, it was just looking at that team, and again, Andy Morrison had said it, but definitely concur with that. It is a fact of, it's probably the best 45 minutes I've seen. It was just a complete performance, and they must have been thinking, the Madrid players, wow, we couldn't even live with them.
Yeah, it was, and the atmosphere again that night. I mean, in particular, the atmosphere at the Etihad for the last couple of seasons, but that night was insane. So then, Paul, we've had a just little inkling about what you've come forward.
Yeah, Steve just gave it away. I was going to go with the very first one, Napoli.
Yeah.
Because in my time, and obviously my boys growing up, never ever thought they would see City playing in Champions League.
I mean, that's when I remember that, because they had Cavani, Lavezzi, and who's the third? I can't remember. Maybe Higuain up front as well.
Kolarov equalised.
Yeah.
But I've got to go, and it's the boring one. I've got to go to Istanbul. Saying there that even when the takeover happened, when we won the first Premier League, which was a special moment. I don't think anybody could have dreamed that we're going to go on and win the Champions League, never mind the treble. And I believe that we can go on and win multiple Champions Leagues, I think, and maybe even another treble, but I don't think the emotion and everything that surrounded, not just that day, the night, the whole weekend, the Friday, seeing the City fans, no trouble at all. The atmosphere was electric from the Friday all the way through till we came home on the Sunday. Not that I can remember much about the Sunday, mind you.
I don't remember any of the Sunday.
But it's just in being there with my two boys, seeing grown men, families, grandparents, seeing them cry with elation from winning it. And we could win the treble again next year, but I don't think it would be as special as that night in Istanbul. City won the first Champions League and to win the treble with it. And I think the emotion around the stadium, but then the emotion on Pep, who's won it before, you know, the players' faces who'd won everything. I think that's a special moment that will never be repeated.
No, I agree. I mean, it was just. I mean, even, I don't know about you, Esme, as well, but still, even though I watched that goal, it still gets me. It is like the Aguero one, but it gets me every single time seeing it. I still almost can't quite believe it. You know what I mean?
Goosebumps. It does still seem somewhat surreal that we've won the Champions League, because it was talked about for so long, and it was the brush that people could beat us with, that you'll never win that, you'll never sing about that, and now we can, so it's all good.
We were in Porto together, and the devastation that night was just, I've never known anything like it after a football game. But then I've never known anything like that after the elation that you had winning that.
And almost it made them Porto all worthwhile. Remember my dad saying actually it just makes Porto part of that journey. That was rough though. And ice cream usually always helps me feel better, and I had an ice cream that night and it did nothing.
You had more than an ice cream, I seen you afterwards.
Let me tell you, in Istanbul there was a lot more than ice cream, man. Oh yeah, we ended up with, remember that there was that big strip, there was loads of videos of the City fans. I think we were there all night into the early hours of the morning. Brilliant, amazing night. I actually put on the group, and it wasn't. It's obviously nothing to like those games, but it's the similar feeling you said about the Napoli game. Don't know if you remember when we played Barcelona. And it wasn't a great result for us because Lionel Messi turned up and it was Lionel Messi in his prime. Honestly, I remember counting 8 players during the game. Joe Hart had a stormer, saved a penalty.
Joe was magnificent that night.
But I just remember as a kid, I thought the only way I'd ever watch Barcelona was either if you go to the new camp or just watching them play a game. I never thought as a City fan I'd see my team face up opposite them, whether we won or not. I just thought to even be in the same competition and sharing the pitch with them was an achievement in itself. So I mean, that's always one that sticks out to me. And now we're European winners, so there we are. The rest is history. We're bringing you some new features throughout Matchday Live, where we want to bring you behind the scenes of different parts of the club. So for this, we sent FG to go behind the scenes with Tom Flathers to get a crash course in photography.
Joining me pitchside is none other than senior club photographer Tom Flathers. Tom, thank you for joining us on Matchday Live. First things first, what we want to know is where it all began.
It all began university, really, or just before photographing, like college and university sport. Moved up a little bit into Premier League, and then Man City came calling, and it's the best call I've ever got, and now I get to photograph the European champions, which is quite nice, to be fair. So,
moving on to my next question, your memories at this football club. You've experienced so much. You've been part of such great things. Is there anything that stands out?
Too many. Obviously, Champions League finals, the obvious answer. Winning many Premier Leagues. The early one that I loved was Aguero in Napoli when he scored the record goal for the club, and I kind of thought I'd take my first photo that was like a historic photo, so that's always a special one for me, I think.
Now, you guys watching have probably seen many images from Mr. Flathers, and they are taken on nights like this. Let's talk about the Champions League. Tell us about your normal routine for a match day, including tonight's game.
Player arrival, a few hospitality things, try and avoid the rain, match day, so warm-ups and all that sort of thing, and then we photograph the nights under the lights, which are really cool to do, a bit different to normal. If it's not raining, it's even better, but it's still great, and I'm excited for tonight.
Is there any specific players from the men's or women's team that you enjoy working with?
You know what I'm going to say, don't you? Erling's amazing. Jack's very cool. The women's side, Kirsten. I love working with Kirsten. Dana, a lot of the women's players are amazing to work with. But the whole team, they're such great guys, and it's really amazing to get to photograph them.
It absolutely is. Quickly before we head back, thank you so much. I know you're super busy when the players are going to come out very soon. Let's talk about a young photographer. Have you got any advice for anyone who's watching on Matchday Live at home? Any advice for them?
For sure. Find your local team and go and be the club photographer for that local team. Go and photograph the dressing room. Go and photograph the elements that you don't normally see. Don't just do action. Work your way up, and then one day, hopefully, someone like Man City will come calling.
Well, fingers crossed. It's been absolutely amazing to catch up with you. That's been Tom Flathers, and we're going to head back to the studio.
Thanks, FG, and thank you, Tom, as well. Some brilliant advice there for any young budding photographers if you are watching. We have got just under 15 minutes until kick-off. You're watching Matchday Live. We're going to bring you a little recap in just a second and get final thoughts from our guys. But we've got Esme Morgan with us in the studio, of course, first-team player in our women's team. As we said at the start of the show, really difficult result at the weekend, especially as I thought as well, you deserved so much more from the game. That aside, though, brilliant start to the season. What has been your assessment of the season so far?
We've been really happy with it for the most part. I think we've had some really good results, strong performances. We felt we were hard done by in both of what you perceive externally to be the big games against Chelsea. Obviously, some questionable decisions.
Agreed.
Against us.
Very questionable.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say any more about that. And then at the weekend, just, so frustrating. We felt like we were the dominant team. We had the better chances, far more chances, in fact. And as I said at the start of the show, just a couple of poor, sloppy moments from us that ended up costing us. And we hope that we can kind of put it right and use those moments that we had to kind of learn from them and really tighten up and just make sure we're clinical and ruthless at the top end of the pitch so that little slip-ups don't end up costing us points.
New signing Jill Rudd, how impressed have you been with Jill so far? What a player.
Yeah, she's been amazing. She's such a lovely person to have around as well. She's slotted in so quickly and everyone loves her to bits, and on the pitch she just offers so much dynamism going forwards. I think when Caroline Weir left, we lost a midfielder who scored us a lot of goals throughout the season, and Jill's just got such a natural eye for arriving in the box at the right time, picking up space on the edge, and she's such a clinical finisher too, so she's been such a great addition for us.
Paul, I know for yourself as well, you've been following the season really closely this year.
I do follow them really well, obviously ex-teammates with Gareth, and do you think it's helped this season only having the one in? Rather than last season, there was about 6 or 7 left, and 6 or 7 came in. It was a tough start to the season last year. Whereas this year, you look as if a team that's been together for well over 12 months now.
Yeah, I'd say so, because you see it on the men's side. Like, there's a lot of talk about people coming into their own in their second season under Pep. Once you've established yourself in the style of play and you know all the little details about which passes to find when the opposition show certain pictures to you, and I think it takes a little while to get to grips with that, and the fact that, as you say, we've only had one player change over the summer has just meant we've got so much continuity, and there's no need for time to be spent on the little basics of the style of play, and we can just really refine and focus on specific aspects of games in preparation for whichever opponent we're going to play. So it's made it really, really useful and seamless, and we can use the time in training a lot more efficiently.
I think that's helped as well. I mean, obviously looking from the outside, that obviously it's been a disjointed start to the season with the World Cup, which must have been amazing, and then players coming back at different times, then having a short pre-season, going into it, and then having other internationals. I think because you've all played together and you've got that camaraderie in there and knowing where everybody's going to go, compared to some of the other teams who do look, I mean, Arsenal, Chelsea are top teams, but they still look a little bit disjointed in what they're doing. And I think the fact that you've managed to keep that together and bring in Jill, who's super experienced, has helped you massively.
I wonder off that though as well. I mean, by the way, the documentary on the season is phenomenal, and I urge anyone to go and watch that. It really is brilliant, but you can feel within that there is something special being built, and I know you're a part of it, but I do feel we're only kind of scratching the surface of what potentially this group of players could do and go on to achieve, because you know the ability that's in there, the variety, but also that togetherness as well. Now it does feel really, really exciting. Do you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. I think you got a sense of it sort of last year. There were spells and glimpses of it, particularly towards the end of the season, midway through from December through to sort of March, April time. We put on such a good run, and we're really dominant against teams, and it was frustrating that we felt like we fell short at crucial moments towards the end of the season that meant we didn't achieve what we wanted to. But coming into this year, we've carried on that momentum, and as you say, we're so familiar with each other, with the style of play, and we have a lot of belief that we can be really successful and hopefully win our first league title in too many years. It's been, so we're very optimistic that we can do that.
No, well, we're wishing you all the love and luck, and of course, you know, we're with you every step of the way, and so brilliant as well, especially I know you had the injury a little bit ago, but to see you back playing, starting 4 out of 5, Esme, it's a joy, it really is. And remember, game tomorrow night against Liverpool, Continental Cup game, it will be on City Plus kickoff from 7 p.m, so make sure you are tuned in to watch that, and no doubt we'll see our girls put Liverpool to the sword and win that, fingers crossed. Right, not long to go on the show, so let's quickly work through Mystery Blue. We've given you 2 clues already. Clue number 1 was this man played in one of our most famous European nights against Hamburg. Clue number 2 was this man has a connection with a club and other clubs' nation this evening. And this final clue, and I know we might have some guesses here in the studio, does that solidify your guess, Esme, the third clue? This man shares a surname with a player from our arch rivals.
It does.
Does it?
I'm confident in my answer. I did have a little assist.
There's a little bit of teamwork going on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't sure what country young boys are from, so
this solidified it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So confirm that for me.
We're going to use. So we got a little team answer there.
Ex-teammate of mine as well.
Okay, well there's a little bonus clue from Paul.
See, if they'd done their research, they might have put that up there as well.
Well, at half-time, we're going to be revealing who that mystery player is. So there are your 3 clues, and we'll bring you that, as I say, after the first 45 minutes of football. Right, not long left, so we'll bring you up the team at the bottom of your page, and we will get final thoughts from our guests. So, Steve, as we know, qualification looms, hopefully, and this could also potentially be our 100th European win. How confident are you in that team, and how do you think we're going to go at the game today?
Very confident in the team. Yeah. I like the look of the team. Obviously, the manager, he does like to rotate, but look at the team that he's starting with. It's an absolutely fantastic team. You can imagine the players from young boys will be looking at that and going, oh, him, and they know for a fact there's just threats from all over the place. Looking forward to seeing Grealish and Foden again, and obviously Haaland, fresh from, yes, he did have he picked up a little bit of a knock, but he'll be desperate to get back on the score sheet again. But I think young boys have scored in every one of their Champions League games this season, and I think City have conceded in their 3 as well. So I can see goals in this. But for me, certainly a lot more goals from City than them.
Lovely. Right, well, before we get Steve's prediction, Paul, I'm going to come to you for your prediction, please.
Yeah, same as Steve, really. Looking forward to seeing Jack and Phil in the wings. I thought Jack was back to his best in the derby the other week there. Fantastic. Played well out there as well. And the little bit of competition him and Doku have got on, I think it's really going to bring the best out of them.
Same.
I spoke to Jack on Saturday after the game, and he was saying that he's delighted how well Doku's doing, because it's going to have to take his game to a different level now, which was refreshing to see. But score prediction, I'm going to go 5-0.
5-0 for Paul Strong, love that. Esme?
I'm going for 3-1.
3-1, lovely, thank you. And Steve?
Why does everybody keep on taking my options? I was going to go 3-1. Do you know what? I'll go in the middle.
I'll change it to 4-1 if you want.
Well, I'll go 4-0.
You'll go 4-0. Okay, lovely. Massive thank you to Steve Howey, Esme Morgan, and to Paul Dickov, and thank you to you. Right, we'll be back at half-time. Your commentary team tonight is Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison. So over to them, and I'll see you at half-time. Come on, City.
Well, thank you, Kel. So, top of the Premier League and top of their Champions League group. Tonight, City have the opportunity to cement their place in the knockout stages of Europe's elite competition. Their competition, the defending champions competition. Victory against young boys here at the